So the article out on Deadspin, written by Rob Parker, who, of course, is co-hosting with me today here on Fox Sports Radio and the iHeartRadio app, and, of course, here in the Dan Patrick Show and the Dan Patrick app, is that Pat Mahomes gave away a great opportunity. What is that opportunity?
The opportunity was to make history and to change the way the NFL does business with its players. Like, of all players who could have demanded and gotten a fully guaranteed contract. And what I mean by that, Doug, is if he signed it doesn't have to be 10-year, whatever they would have agreed on, but whatever it would have been, whatever the amount of money that they talked about in the deal would be fully guaranteed. If it's a 6-year deal, 4-year deal, whatever they had come up with and whatever the money was, it should have been fully guaranteed, and he was the guy. We saw Kirk Cousins get a 3-year, as a free agent, a 3-year fully guaranteed contract for $84 million. And I just thought there was a golden opportunity to change the landscape of what NFL players, all the other leagues, NBA, Major League Baseball, National Hockey League, you get guaranteed contracts. Mike Trout signed for $426 million. He's going to get $426 million. Not a dollar less, not a dime less. I remember when A-Rod was leaving the Rangers and wanted to go to the Red Sox. Do you remember that story?
Yep.
And he was going to take a little pay cut to go to the Red Sox so that it all could fit. And the union refused to allow him to take a pay cut because he had to get all the money that he had signed for, right. So that deal was nixed, which is fine, and I get it. Because once you open up that Pandora's box, you're going to have problems and other people. And in this case, had Mahomes made the NFL do this, other players could have maybe followed his lead and been like, this is where we should be headed. And whether the contracts, Doug, are smaller, 3 years, 2 years, whatever the money is, it should be guaranteed. The headline said $503 million, but there is no guarantee that he's going to get. You could speculate all you want. He could get hurt in next season and never be the same player and never get all that money. My point is, he should sign for a fully guaranteed contract, and that's what he should have held out for.
Okay, I mean, look, if you like that, then you like what Kirk Cousins did in getting two straight. Remember, he was a franchise taggy 2 straight years, which is what Dak Prescott could do. He could be a franchise tag 1 more year. Okay, which again guaranteed this year for like $31 million and change. Next year would be maybe a little bit more because it's the average of the top 5 salaries. Probably would be more. And so, next year in the 32, 33, and then he could be transition tagged, or he could be a free agent, and then he could sign. But Pat Mahomes was not a free agent. He does have guaranteed money. It just may not be for the length of time or the amount of money that you believe. Really, this is a $274.781 million guaranteed deal for 6 years. Most of the money is actually paid up. A good portion of the money is paid up front. $141 million or so in the next 2 years, right? March of 2022, he'll be fully paid $141 million.
No, he signed for $503. That's the number that they told you.
Listen. You're reading the Lee Steinberg. Hey, I signed the guy for $503.
That's what the contract it says. He got to go Google it. The richest sports contract
I understand.
in the history of sports is Patrick Mahomes.
Look,
right?
that's a reporting issue. That's a journalism issue. That's actually not a Pat Mahomes issue. One, he was not a free agent. Okay, so
But that didn't stop him from signing him to a deal. Doug, stop using that. If that was the case, Chiefs.
His deal.
Wait a minute.
What is better? You tell me.
The contracts wouldn't have given him a contract extension.
Fine.
They didn't have to sign him, so stop using that as.
He
wasn't a free agent, but they signed him to a deal.
I understand. So yes. So when I'm negotiating a deal and I'm giving you listen, we'll sign you. You've been great. You're awesome. We love you here. You love it here. You love Andy Reid. You've been nothing but as better than we ever could have imagined. Right? So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna add on money to your new contract, and we're gonna pay you more than anybody else. So you tell me, Rob, what's a better contract? $274 for 6 years, or my truck? No. I'm asking you a question. What's a better contract? $274 for 4 years, or $400 and change for 12 years for Trout? What's a better contract?
426 because the 274 that you're talking about is not totally guaranteed.
Yes,
there's a chance. No, it's not.
Have you read the details of the contract? No, you haven't. No, you haven't.
I'm talking about the money that's out front, what you just mentioned. The 63 that was fully guaranteed at signing, the 141 injury.
Those
are the numbers I read.
No, you're look, in truth, it's all fully guaranteed in the first 6 years. It's paid out early. Okay, there's a difference there. What's paid out, it goes into what's called an escrow account. So the Chiefs have to put $63 million. They have to pay him $63 million right away. Then they have to put the rest of this money, the $103 million, in an escrow account immediately. And then that escrow account he has to be paid by next March. Then there's another escrow account. So that's not just fully guaranteed money. That's money that they have to come up and put into escrow. Real cash that they have to come up with right away. That is his money regardless. Okay. Then the contract is actually, there are advanced roster bonus rollovers, which is really guaranteed money.
No, it's not guaranteed because you got to make the roster and they can cut you, Doug.
If
you're saying, yes.
Rob, if Doug, they cut him, he becomes a free agent and then he makes even more money.
Doug, he could be injured. That's the reason why they cut him.
And he could
have an issue.
And he has injury guarantees.
But there's a situation that the reason that they're letting him go is that he can't go get another deal comparable, or he's not as healthy, or there's another issue. All I'm saying is there's no guarantee that he's going to get 503. You can't guarantee me that.
You're right. But
that's my point.
But the penalties to cutting him, or the penalty to cutting him, are so severe.
But doesn't mean you can't cut the guy, Doug. That's my point. Can they cut him?
Here's the biggest point. Okay,
yes or no? Can they cut him?
Of course they can.
Okay,
and then you know how much they'll owe him? Depending on when they cut him, if they cut him in the first 3 years, he'll get 141. But after the third year, then the fifth year becomes fully guaranteed. Right?
Doug, so, what if they cut him in the first 3 years?
Look, why would they cut him?
Because he got seriously injured or he has some other issue.
Okay, thank you.
So could he get cut?
Wait. Stop talking for 1 second, then I will give you a chance. Okay? So you're talking about a sport that has a possibility, a higher possibility of a career debilitating injury than any of the other three big sports. So what you want an NFL team to do is sign up for the biggest contract ever, for the longest guarantee ever, when that's not the case with baseball. And Alex Smith is the perfect example of it. He signed a massive contract, which, by the way, he was the starter for Pat Mahomes' first year, and then he was traded away and he signed a big contract. He's $32 million against the cap. This is why you wouldn't do that. Okay, so but here's the biggest point, and this is the one that I want you to really think about when we bring on Bucky Brooks. If the point you were making is one that a lot of people are thinking, then how come nobody's saying it? The issue that people have with the contract is with the length of the deal. Okay, I've talked to NFL people like, man, I wouldn't sign for 12 years. Okay, but if you're not going to give up that length, you're going to give up some of the money. And secondly, is that he wasn't. It wasn't the guarantees that people have an issue with. It's he couldn't get his contract directly tied to the salary cap. So it doesn't increase as much over time as it potentially could. What he did was team friendly in that it doesn't kill them against the cap in the next couple of years so that potentially they could re-sign the Chris Joneses of the world. And then he wants to stay there. And they made it so basically they can't cut him in the first 6 years, which will pay him $274 million. And then at that point, the cap should go up, and he'll be able to get an all-new contract.
Do you know that for sure? The cap's going up? Do you know that for sure?
No, it's probably going to go down the next couple of years. And then, yes, it's going to go up because it's gone up. It's like buying a house. Buying a house, even in a recession, it's always eventually going to go back up in terms of value unless somehow the economy does something it has not done over the last 50 years. The salary cap's going to go up probably 10% year to year, with the exception of the next 2 years because we're in the middle of a pandemic, which we've never seen. With that, Bucky Brooks joins us here on Fox Sports Radio and the Dan Patrick Show. Help me out. In your mind, did Pat Mahomes miss an opportunity because he didn't get a fully guaranteed contract?
No, I don't think he missed out on the opportunity, Doug. I think actually what he did is he kind of like made it a situation where it was a win-win for both he and the team. Look, you're talking about $500 million that he could earn over a 10-year period. Given the state of the pandemic and the uncertainty that's ahead, sometimes it's smarter to grab the money when you can. And I know there are people that have said he should play the short-term game and keep re-upping and re-upping and re-upping, but we don't know what the revenue situation is going to look like and how the TV deals are going to impact it and such. And the way the deal is structured, he made it very team-friendly at the front end. So at least in 2021, 2022, they can keep guys like Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, and they can re-sign Chris Jones if they want to and keep a pass rusher and those things. So the vehicles are in place for him to get paid and get paid handsomely, because you talk about an average of $45 million annually, while also allowing the team to win and compete at a high level. And also just know that there's some kickers in that deal that will allow him to get back to the table if he wants to. But on the surface, locking yourself up for 12 years in a marketplace that can provide you with opportunities to make more money seems like maybe he jumped the gun. But in my mind, I think it was a smart move because he got the money, he got the security, while also giving the team an opportunity to have the flexibility to keep a championship caliber squad around him.
That's why Sammy Watkins needs to take a pay cut, right?
I mean, look, Sammy Watkins.
No, I'm asking. I'm asking. They say he did a team-friendly deal to keep players around, so Sammy Watkins has to take a pay cut. My only point, Bucky, is that of all the players out there with the resume who could have been able to broker a deal to get it fully guaranteed, whether it was 10-year contract extension or 6 or 5 or whatever it is, he was in that position because of what he was able to accomplish in 2 years of starting. An MVP, a Super Bowl. That franchise hadn't won anything in 50 years. So that's really my point, is that he had a chance to do something different, to maybe change the pay structure, to maybe give NFL players the idea that they should be fully compensated and not have phony contracts that teams can get out at any point, but players don't have the same options. And that's where I think he missed a golden opportunity, because we saw Kirk Cousins get that kind of deal as a free agent, and he didn't have nearly the resume.
Yeah, Kirk Cousins had vehicles in place where he could flex, and he wanted a fully guaranteed deal, and he got that. And look, it depends on what your individual agenda is. If your individual agenda is to break the bank and go down as a legend when it comes to negotiating contracts, then cool, you can do it that way. But if your goal is to get the money that you want while also having an opportunity to compete at championship levels, because remember, we judge quarterbacks, even though people won't say this, we judge them based on whether they win and if they can win rings. And so Pat Mahomes is looking around and surveying the landscape and saying, I need to have the talent around me to play at the level that I'm playing at. Yes, he's the number one player in the league right now. He's the face of the National Football League. He's in a position to, as they say, chase rings and build a dynasty and all those things. But he also knows he has to have the weapons people around him. As it relates to like Sammy Watkins and those things, I would say this about Sammy Watkins. Sammy Watkins is not Tyreek Hill. Sammy Watkins is more the complimentary player, more so than the number one. The guys that they realize are their blue chip players, they certainly can find the money to pay those guys according to what their market value is. Those other guys, they're going to have to get in where they fit, and I think that's where Sammy Watkins is.
Sammy Watkins has been overpaid for the last couple of years anyway, so that's, he's their fourth best wide receiver. He's making fourth best catcher. He's making $14 million. You're arguing for Sammy Watkins, Rob. Enjoy that island. Doug Gottlieb, Rob Parker in for Dan and the Danettes. Okay, I mean, perfect example of what can happen even to quarterbacks is Cam Newton, right? Cam Newton's because of injury, the Carolina Panthers ended up cutting him, right? He got all the money in his contract until the guarantees were up, and he got paid all those guarantees, and then he was a free agent on the market, and he signed for the veterans minimum. Bucky, do we know what Cam Newton looks like? And I ask you this from this perspective. I talked to some NFL people before this happened. They were like, I didn't like what I saw of him throwing the football last year in terms of a new throwing motion since the shoulder surgery. You add to it the Liz Frank injury and all the other contact injuries he's taken. Like, do we know what Cam Newton will look like when he takes the football field?
No, I mean, no one knows. But, we don't know that about anybody. Do we know what Nick Foles is going to look like when he plays? We don't know anything about those guys. I think what we do know for certain is that, look, Cam Newton is a talented player. Cam Newton, at his best, has been an MVP caliber player that is capable of getting his team to a Super Bowl. We also know that Cam Newton was a number one overall pick, and those other quarterbacks that are on the Patriots roster, they weren't. Jarrett Stidham is a fourth-round pick, and look, I'll say that they could have won with him, but all the people that are here carrying the flag for Jarrett Stidham, it's kind of ridiculous when you compare the two. And then Brian Hoyer, we've seen Brian Hoyer play for a decade, and he is what he is. I think what the Patriots see in Cam Newton is a guy who has a set of skills that they can build an offense around, a guy who, when he's right and healthy, they certainly can use him as a runner. And I think this is what you have to understand about Bill Belichick and defensive-minded coaches. Defensive-minded coaches typically like to have quarterbacks that give them the most problems. If you go back and look at his quotes in 2017 when he called Cam Newton public enemy number one because of the difficulty that he presents as a guy that can run it, can throw it, can do so many different things. I believe because they're not necessarily deeply invested in Cam Newton, man, I think you're going to see them run Cam Newton. I think you see them put him on the perimeter. You're going to see Cam Newton at his best. And I'm going to say this, and I'm fine being on record. This will be the best coaching that Cam Newton has ever received in his NFL career. And if he takes to the coaching and becomes real dialed in with the preparation part of how the Patriots get ready, we will see the best Cam Newton that we've seen in this league. And I think that's a scary thought for teams in the AFC.
Bucky, Washington is in the midst of changing its name. Daniel Snyder said it would never happen under his watch. Was it a combination of the financials from sponsors or whatnot that got this happening, or the mood and the movement of the country going on? Was it what motivated him the most?
It certainly didn't come from the bottom of his heart that he woke up one day and said, you know what? I think I'm going to move away from this racial slur in the nickname of my team. I think the financial implications led him to make the move. And now the thing is, Rob, I'm from North Carolina, but I have a lot of family in D.C.
Yep.
And look, Chocolate City loves Washington.
No
doubt. They love that franchise. They carry that franchise more than any other team and any other fan base. And so, look, this is a situation where they're trying to make right. This is an opportunity for Washington to reset the brand, to really capitalize on it. If you really embrace the opportunity to kind of reset and rebuild the franchise, rebuild the brand, man, you talk about he can make hand over fist and money with new uniforms and new merchandise and new logos and all of that other stuff. And so it's about embracing the opportunity. It's something that we knew was coming. And look, man, what has happened in the last 6 months, like we've seen so many different things happen in 2020, but this is kind of like a seismic sea change. And so people are having to embrace the change. And I think Washington, like Cleveland in baseball and Atlanta and some of these others, they're going to have to change the way they do business because, look, man, you can't go about doing this because Native Americans have been the only group that has been singled out to kind of be a moniker and an imagery and a mascot that we no longer can accept in this country.
Wait. So Braves is a bad thing? I'm struggling with that one.
No, so the Braves, in terms of the tomahawk chop and some of the imagery that have been on the Braves uniforms, like when they had Chief Wahoo and those things are not necessarily representative of where we're going when it comes to the way that we represent the entire country. So they're having to have conversations about that, and are they squared away with the Native Americans that are in that area or whatever, just like Florida State and some of the other schools that are representative with Native American logos and imagery.
Bucky, awesome stuff. I just listened to the most recent pod. It's a good one about, kind of going back over the first round draft picks. You and DJ do an amazing job. It's called Move the Sticks. Download it if you can. Check them out on the NFL Network. Continued health and safety to your family and your friends. Thanks so much for joining us.
All right, Bucky.
Hey, man. All right, man. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me.
Bucky Brooks, one of the good guys, former NFL player, course analyst with the NFL Network and Move the Sticks podcast.